Hi everyone, welcome back to the next diecast. In today's video, I'll be showing you and reviewing this 1/18 scale 1994 Dodge Viper RT-10 made by Bburago. I got this model from Sam's Club for $15 back in August. This is an exclusive paint scheme that Sam's Club sold for 2021. I'm not sure if Bburago is actually still manufacturing this particular model or not, but they made it for many, many years. They first introduced the model back in 1992 when the real Viper actually first came out and was released and everything. And they made it for probably 20 plus years. There's so many different color combinations, so many different, variations in general and everything, that this model is relatively easy to find for a cheap price. eBay has many different examples. If you do like a search for them, you can find these for anywhere between just a few dollars for like a very beat up version that you can get for parts to mint in box versions for upwards of $40, depending on what color it is and everything and its overall condition. But overall, in terms of quality, there are some problems here and there, but seeing that this model was first introduced in the early 1990s, it's kind of expected. But overall, I think for a budget model of the original Dodge Viper, this is a pretty good replica. Now, Bburago has made different years of the Viper RT-10. The real Viper RT-10 first came out in 1992, and it had some changes after 1996, or in 1996, I should say. Mainly, it had different wheels. It came with roll-down windows that year. These side pipes were, I think, moved to the back instead of the side. So that's how you can kind of tell if a Viper is a 1992 to a 95 model, as opposed to a 1996 to a 2002 model. Bburago made different variations of the 1992, 93, and 94 Vipers. This one would actually be a 94 based off the fact that it is bright yellow with these black stripes. I have seen pictures of the real Viper from that year, and it was available in this particular color scheme. So just something to kind of keep in mind, I guess. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the details of the model here. We'll start up here with the front. Decent headlights for the most part. You can see there is a pretty sizable gap kind of underneath and on top, as you can see there. There is some kind of, and there is some bulb detailing behind the lens, as you can see there. I guess if it was more flush, it would look a little bit better, but I think what they have there is decent for the most part. And there's actually no pegs in either of the headlights, which is kind of a surprising feature. You do have separate fog lights down here. Those do have pegs in them, but I don't think they're that bad. And if you opt for a darker color of this model, you probably won't even see the pegs. So I think they did a good job with those. You have this kind of massive grille down here, and this is actually a see-through grille, and this whole bumper is entirely made out of metal, which is nice to see. And then you have this kind of nice Viper badge in the center there, kind of embossed on there in a metallic silver. And you have the painted on turn signals, though I imagine it'd be kind of hard to replicate those as separate plastic pieces, seeing how small they actually are. The paint quality overall on this model, I would say, is a very well done. If you get a newer version of this model, you will get a nice smooth paint job. Bburago really improved with their paint work after the 2000s. So, and this is certainly no exception to that. Very smooth throughout, very shiny. The stripes are nicely, painted on and aligned and everything. There's no overspray or anything like that. So that's really nice to see. Taking a look at the side, you'll see these kind of cool 3-spoke wheels. I'm planning on making these silver because the real 94 Viper I don't think came with black 3-spoke wheels. It came with silver ones. So that'll be another video where I kind of have a custom project where I make these wheels silver. But you will see these as silver wheels on all the other variants of this model. And Bburago, I think, did a good job with them. Very kind of basic, simple shape and everything. You do actually have brake disc and calipers. They're just kind of hard to see because they're small and they kind of blend in with these black rims. And older versions of this model will have branded tires. I think they're like Michelin tires. So that's kind of a cool touch. And you do have the raised up Viper RT-10 badging on the side here. Bburago did a great job with that. On the real Viper, it looks just like this, where it kind of matches like the body paint, and it's just kind of raised up into the metalwork. Speaking of metal, you have these metal side mirrors, so they will never be bending or falling off or anything. So I think that's very cool to see. And these vents up here are actually separate plastic pieces. The windshield is actually very thin and flimsy, so do not pick up the model by the windshield or it'll pop right off. I wish that was a little bit better kind of constructed. But This rear portion back here, this kind of roll bar, that's actually made of die-cast metal. I thought it was actually a separate plastic piece, but it seems like it's actually a separate like metal piece. So that's really cool to see. And the real Viper, of course, it would actually be metal, like the rest of the body too. And you have these nice kind of side exhaust pipes down here. Some versions will have chrome, some versions will have black. And Bburago, I think, did a good job of kind of replicating the overall shape of those. And you do have the functional intakes on the sides here, which are nice to see. Taking a look at the back, Bburago did a great job with these tail lights and also these indicator lights down here. Both are replicated as separate plastic pieces. And yeah, there are pegs in both of them, but at least, you know, none of them are painted on. They're all separate plastic pieces. And unlike the headlights, these taillights are actually nice and flush, like with the metal body and everything. Same goes for these lower lights down here. And you do have the Dodge Viper badging back here too. Similar to the badging on the side, it's just kind of raised up into like the metal work. It says Dodge, and you have Viper RT-10. I think they maybe did a little bit too much paint over the badges, so they're kind of a little bit hard to see, and they're not very like finely detailed. But I think the fact that they just have them there in general is a nice touch. They could have cheaped out and just kind of printed them on in silver maybe, but they actually kind of raised those up into the metal work. So I think that's good attention to a detail there. And then you have a nice Viper badge on the trunk lid too. Kind of the same silver look that you see in the front there. You do have this very tiny third brake light back here. It is just painted on, but it's so small, I'd imagine it'd be very difficult to kind of make it as a separate plastic piece. So that's cool to see. Oh, I forgot to mention, you do have steering on the model. It's actually a pretty good steering too. There it is turning with, or there's the steering wheel turning with these wheels. No suspension though, but a Bburago most often does not include suspension with their models. In terms of opening features, you do have an opening trunk back here, which opens up like so. Not really too much to see in there. There is a little bit of detailing. You wouldn't really see much in the real Viper's trunk anyway, so I don't think that's a big deal. A nice kind of texture going in there throughout. You have kind of a smooth texture here and kind of a little bit of a rough texture back in that corner there. The trunk does open up on these kind of small hinges, so just be careful when you're opening and closing it because it may wear away a little bit and it might not stay open, like if you open it too often. And of course, you also get the opening hood too, which opens up like so. And it kind of clicks into place, so you just kind of have to pull it up lightly, and then it opens up like so. Now, a weird feature about the newer versions of this model, the hood doesn't open up all the way. It should open up kind of completely straight, like if you see, and it also slams shut like that too. You have to kind of just, you know, do that, and kind of open it and just push it in place. And these are actually loose, I forgot to mention that. You might have to put a little dab of glue if yours are loose like mine are. But the hood should definitely open wider because the real car's hood definitely opens almost to a right angle completely. My Maisto 96 Viper GTS is kind of a good example of that, where the hood definitely opens up a much wider angle. And I think the older versions of this model definitely have hoods that open wider. I'm not sure what Bburago's thinking was with making the hood not open fully like this, but at least it still opens, I guess, but it's kind of annoying because then it gets kind of hard to see into the engine. And as you saw, it does kind of like slam shut because it's a very heavy die-cast piece. So I'm going to kind of go in here quickly so the hood, you know, won't slam shut as I'm talking. But Bburago did a good job of this V10 engine in here. You can see it's a multi-piece engine. It's not just one like plastic slab or anything like that. You can see all the different wiring and stuff in there. I'm not sure if this should be chrome. I think it might have to be silver instead of chrome, but at least it kind of stands out a little bit. You do have the red block underneath that too. But yeah, overall, Bburago didn't make too many changes to this model's engine in the course of its production run, but I don't think that's really a big deal because this is a very well detailed engine. I think there should definitely be some kind of Viper inscription. Actually, there is. Yeah, it's just very hard to see. You can see it says Viper on the side there with that badge. A very kind of subtle detail. I'm glad that Bburago included that because as you saw just now, it actually is kind of hard to see, but I like when they kind of pay attention to those finer details. And up in the front, you do see some different pulleys and wires and everything too. I guess a little bit more detail would have been nice and definitely have a wider opening hood, but I think what Bburago has in here is a very solid effort, especially considering that this model has been made since the early 1990s. But overall, they did a good job with the engine, I would say, for the most part. And then you just close the hood, and then it kind of clicks into place like that. We'll take a look next at the interior detailing. Open up the doors. The doors do open up on spring-loaded hinges, so they do open up at a rather wide angle, which is nice to see. Not really too much to see on the door panels in terms of detailing. You do have kind of two different textures going on as the real Viper would have. I think some came with different colored inserts in like the centers here. On this one, it does have the all black interior, which I think was standard. You have kind of the separately molded door handle here. I'm not really sure what that piece is there too, but it's kind of cool to see how they do the two different textures. They could have just cheaped out, done one texture and called it a day, but they actually do pay attention and do the two different textures on there. But that's really all you get in terms of the door panel detailing, because the real car really didn't have much. It was very kind of like minimalist, you know, car. You didn't even have air conditioning or roll down windows for the earlier variants. Bburago also did a good job with the seats of the model. They are a bit on the thin side, but at least the overall shape, I think, is well done. And they even include separate seat belts on here, too. These Simpson inscriptions you see, they're actually just stickers, and this one's already starting to peel off a little bit. I guess it's good that they included the Simpsons on there in general, but I guess they maybe could have found a way to paint them on instead of putting them on as stickers, but at least they are on there. It kind of adds a nice little accent to this otherwise all black interior. But they are separate pieces, and you do see kind of a texture on the fronts there and everything too. And you do kind of have a nice leather pattern going around the seats too, which do also move, but they don't stay in place. So just be careful, don't break them off or anything. And the seat bottoms are very well done too. You have kind of a nice leather pattern going on them. There's very fat kind of center console on here. Now the center stack, as you can see, is just one gigantic sticker. That's very like 90s, you know, old Bburago right there. I wish they'd at least made the sticker black instead of gray, because it's gray, it's so obvious that it's just a cartoonish looking sticker. I mean, at least they put the gauges and everything and the vents in the right spots, but I mean, you would think after all these years, Bburago would have improved the interior or something, maybe made it as separate buttons instead of just one gigantic sticker. But I guess to save on cost, they've just been making it as the same sticker design for all these years. But it does not look great, especially if you have the sticker as a different color from the interior. If this were a black sticker instead of the gray, it would have looked, you know, decently better, I mean. But I mean, that's just not really cool to see that in there. I mean, aside from that, at least they do a good job with the shifter and the parking brake. You see they actually put in like the stitching you would see on like the sides there. This is very, very loose. I have to glue that back in. See, I'm kind of surprised that they do that. And like, look at the pattern on here, like that kind of nice like leather texture or whatever it is. I'm sure it's just hard plastic on the real car, but it looks like the real texture. All this different attention to detail with textures, but then when it comes to the center stack and buttons, they just put a giant sticker in there. I'm not really sure what their thinking was with that. But again, this is probably one of the earliest 1/18 scale models that's been made, so I'm sure they were kind of just starting out with trying to figure out how to put in details and stuff back then. But I would think after, you know, 20 plus years, they would have improved. I mean, they definitely have improved with the exterior, like the paint is now like flawless and everything, but with the interior, I mean, come on. There's other ways now to do center stacks aside from giant stickers. Aside from that, you do have the kind of glove box detailing there. And again, the shifter and the parking brake are actually very well done. And the steering wheel, I will give them that. That's also pretty well done. You have the kind of rough texture along the perimeter and the kind of smooth in the center. And they do actually have a very nice Viper badge embossed on there. I'm surprised that they would not put this as a sticker because it is very small. They actually do paint that on fully, whereas for this, it's just one giant sticker. It's just very weird how they pay attention to some things, but not on others in terms of detailing. You do have pedals on this side. It's just very hard to see because they're set very far back. But they are actually done in the proper kind of chromish silver, like brushed aluminum that you would see on the real car. And kind of interesting is that Bburago actually did do a good job with the chrome on these pedals. Usually it's kind of a flashy, shiny chrome, but on here it's actually the perfect balance between silver and chrome. It's very hard to see these, I know. That's the best we're going to get, I guess, because they're just set so far back and the interior is actually like very dark in here, but at least they do pay attention to those details. And you do have these kind of sun visors up here too. They do not adjust, unfortunately, but again, the whole thing is just very flimsy. But I mean, aside from this massive sticker in here, I guess the interior is decently detailed. If you get it for the $15 price tag I got it at, it's really not that bad. But if you're paying upwards of $40, that's kind of a major disappointment in that sense. But I mean, I guess a lot of the other details kind of make up for that. And this is such a widely available model that you shouldn't have a problem finding one for cheap and everything. I guess last but not least, we'll take a look at the undercarriage detailing. Decently detailed on undercarriage down here. You can see all this detailing back here. The exhaust system and everything is actually done in this gray instead of chrome. And you can see all the engine detail down there too. That's very cool to see, and even the working steering system. Bburago always has done a good job with their undercarriage on their models, and this is certainly no exception to that, for sure. So overall, I think they did a decent job down here. So if you can find this model, and you certainly will be able to find one for a cheap price, depending on which color you opt for and which year and everything and when it was actually made, I think this is a solid addition to your 1/18 scale car collection. Whether you're like a fan of the Viper or just 1990s supercars or just supercars in general, I think it would fit well in your collection. And Sam's Club may still have a few of this particular variation still in stock. So if you are a member of Sam's Club, make sure you go there and check it out and see if you can find this particular color scheme there. As always, hope this was kind of a helpful overview and review of this particular model. And feel free to comment down below with your thoughts on it. Thanks for watching.